So hello there, everyone. I'm doing something I haven't done in a while, and that's this concept of a Prelude episode. For those of you who've been following my podcast since the beginning, you'll recall that in the early days, I did these things called Prelude episodes, which were basically the explanation, the lead up, the exposition leading into a trip report kind of thing. And those explanations that build up, that lead in, they tended to be quite long because I just over explain everything and I talk too much and I overanalyze and so on and so forth. So I broke them out into their own episodes so that people who wanted to watch the trip reports only weren't bothered by this long-winded explanation. And so I'm doing the same thing here. The trip report that I have coming up, which is the whole reason I was on YouTube crying my eyeballs out, and the whole reason why I set all of my videos to private and was going to, tear everything down, that is the trip report, right, that I'm going to be covering. And it was one that was powerful enough to result in me doing that. Okay, so this was probably, in my opinion, the most, could you say second most, or I don't know, it's in the top three easily of the most intensely amazing and so much weight and heft behind the experience. It's one of the most mind-blowing trip reports that I could do, right? And so I figured that in order so that we get straight to the meat and potatoes on the actual trip report, I thought it was pertinent, or it was applicable, that I do one of these Prelude episodes again, kind of telling you the lead in. Okay. And so now that we're 2 minutes into me explaining why I'm doing this, I can finally get to the meat and potatoes of the Prelude itself. And so the big question that I would be thinking if I was you is, okay, why did I do psychedelics again, right? Why was I crying on a YouTube video and then threatening, taking down all the content or whatever? Why? What happened here? Well, as you can tell from those previous videos, the last two, the one that's called A Heartbeat Away, and then the one that says Goodbye for Now. Basically, I've had 3 rounds, well, me and my wife, mostly my wife because she's the one experiencing it physically. We've had 3 rounds of failed IVF, okay, in vitro fertilization. We've been trying to get pregnant for a long time, and it's not working, and so we did in vitro. Neither of us are insured, but it doesn't matter because insurance usually doesn't cover this stuff. She's insured, I'm not, but it doesn't matter because her insurance doesn't cover it anyway. A ton of money. Thankfully, from my last job, my last career, I have a 401k that I've been dipping into, but it's a lot of money. But that is the least of the issue here. The biggest issue is that literal lives are being lost. I don't want to get into a debate here or discussion about Roe versus Wade or pro-choice versus choice or whatever. I don't know, life versus choice. I don't want to even touch that with a 10-foot pole, y'all. That's not the idea. But on my side here, when you're putting so much hope and excitement behind having a baby, losing one is devastating. Now, it's not as devastating as I would imagine if someone, if we actually had the kid and it grew up to be 2 years old, 6 years old, 16 years old, 36 years old, and we suddenly lost the life there. That would be probably more devastating, but it's still devastating. It's about as devastating as you can imagine, and more so with my wife. My wife has been wanting to have a kid for 20 years now, and it just really sucks to see someone who you consider to be like 98% perfect. I mean, seriously, I consider my wife to be like 98% perfect. Someone who doesn't deserve any amount of torture or torment or anguish or strife or struggle to see that person constantly crushed is really, really, I can't tell you how not cool it is, especially when that person is my anchor of joy, my anchor of goodness, the person whose goodness inspired me to get good myself. To see that person absolutely crushed is about as devastating as you can possibly imagine. When you're wiping tears away from that person's eyes for a solid 2 weeks, you can't explain. It's impossible. So we've had our third failed attempt, and that third one, y'all, was chock full of all of these beautiful, unbelievably, like, cry your eyeballs out because it's so beautiful, signs that it was going to work, and we were going to have this baby daughter, and her name was going to be Julia, and everything hinged on that 7-week checkup when you do IVF. Like, do you get a heartbeat? Is the fetus above a certain length or not? If the fetus is a certain size and you hear a heartbeat, you're on schedule. Pregnancy is going the way it should be. If you don't hear it after 7 weeks, something's wrong, right? Usually, and by the way, for those of you who are trying to help, and I do appreciate it, I hate to say it here, but you don't know the full story of the IVF thing that we're going through, okay? I've heard a lot of people say, well, just wait, you'll still get a heartbeat. Y'all, when you know when the woman last ovulated, her last period, when you know that, when you know the date that the embryo was implanted into the uterus, and when you know that you've done genetic testing to determine that there are no chromosomal genetic abnormalities that would result in a miscarriage, or Down syndrome or something like that, some kind of condition, but you're one of the major things you're checking for is the pregnancy going to stick? Is it going to last? When you do the genetic testing that says this embryo is not one of those embryos that would fail, right? This one has a 90+% chance of it going full term. When you do that and you don't get a heartbeat after 7 weeks, you're in the 5% case where science and doctors do not know what's happening there. The number one reason that would not work is if there is a genetic abnormality, a chromosomal issue. But we did genetic testing and there wasn't one. So the doctors are scratching their heads, as they should, because it's miracles still happen, mind you. The doctor, God bless him, still, when I demanded, so here's the story. We got our first ultrasound, and this is a transvaginal ultrasound, right? This is the one that it's not a question. It's like the abdominal ultrasounds, it's questionable. It's like, hey, maybe the fetus is still okay. But we don't know because this was just an abdominal one. When you do the transvaginal one, y'all, I hate to get graphic here. It gets all up in there, okay? There's no question about what we see and what we don't see, right? So transvaginal ultrasound, genetic testing, IVF, with all of those three factors combined and us not getting a heartbeat after 7 weeks, the odds are absolutely astronomically, infinitesimally small that the fetus will somehow start growing again and we'll get a heartbeat. So that was the diagnosis after week 7, when it was just like getting punched in the stomach. And we decided we wanted to wait because I trusted the signs. It was like, no, all these signs with hearts and Julia and all this stuff. I mean, when we went to Portugal and we saw all those hearts with Julia in it, it was like 1,000 hearts and then one name, Julia. And I didn't even see it until I edited the video. There was another Julia with a heart on the entrance as we were walking in. It's like all these signs about babies. And when I completed my 10-day fast, which usually at the end of my fast, it always results in these amazing synchronicities and signs from God. And lo and behold, my synchronicity this time around was, hey, we're pregnant. And then I kept getting all these baby references, like the whole Bible verse. I'll put it up here again. That happened while an episode of Friends was playing in the background when a person's giving birth to a baby right there. And all those other signs, y'all, there's so many signs. And there was actually a sign that I forgot to put in the video that I totally like slapped my head afterwards. I forgot to mention. When I called, there's a friend of mine who, for a lot of people, a lot of people nowadays, we'd rather text than call. But I have a friend of mine who is a caller. He's an old school guy who likes to call you when the good news happens or just to check up, kind of thing. And so my friend, who, by the way, is I just love talking about this guy because he is one of my heroes. Like, no joke. My friend, I won't mention his name. We'll call him Jeff. Okay. Or I think I've already mentioned Jeff at the name Jeff, and we'll call him Jack. Okay. So my friend Jack is a former Green Beret and just a badass of a human being, just a battering ram brute of a guy, freakish human strength. Like I've personally seen with my own eyes feats of his human strength, and it is unbelievable. You throw on top of that he's an elite commando or was an elite commando. This guy is my hero, but what makes him even more of a hero to me is that it's going to make me cry talking about it because I love this guy so much. He is the sweetest guy you could possibly imagine. Just a sweetheart. Take the shirt off of your back. In fact, give you his whole wardrobe. One of the sweetest people I have ever met, and it's not one of these categorically kind of things. It's like, well, he's sweet to you, but remember, he's a Green Beret. That means he still would crack the skull of blah, blah. No, y'all, this guy is across the board to everyone except your enemy on the battlefield, but he's just doing his job, mind you. Across the board to everyone that I've met, that I've seen interact with this guy has just been an absolute teddy bear sweetheart. Love this guy. Something the day that we were pregnant, the day that I found out we were pregnant, the end of my 10-day fast and all this stuff. I was so happy. I was riding on cloud 9 or whatever they call it, and something compelled me to call him and give him the news. He was the only person that I called to give news. The other people, most of them, just about everyone else, he was the only person I called. Everyone else was either there when I told them, or I texted them. So I called this man, and when I called him, there's loud music going on in the background. I'm like, oh, he's at a bar at happy hour or something. I guess he has this great job, and I'm like, oh, he's probably like doing a social happy hour kind of thing. He's not much of a bar guy, but he's probably at a happy hour or something. And so like I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, hey, John. And he's like, hey, answers his phone, despite what's going on. And I'm about to tell you what's going on because it's heartbreakingly beautiful. He's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, Jack, you're not gonna believe this, man. I know it sounds like you're busy, man. But I know that you like to call, and I wanted to call you and tell you that we're pregnant. And he's like, what? He's like, I can't hear you. Let me step aside. And he's like, I can't hear you because the music's so loud. And he goes and steps aside, and you know what the man tells me? He says, hey, sorry about that, man. I'm at a father-daughter dance at my daughter's elementary school or junior high or something. He's like, I'm at the father-daughter dance right now. This man stepped away from his own daughter to take the call from me, so I could tell him that we were pregnant with a daughter. And that was a sign that I had left out of unintentionally. I would much have rather put this in the episode. I forgot. I just totally forgot about that one. That was one of the signs, and it was just another pat on the back from God that was like, hey man, wink wink. These are all hints and indications that it's going to happen. And so on the second ultrasound, so all that was before the first ultrasound. First ultrasound fails, and we're upset. We're distraught. We're devastated. We are gutted, especially my wife, which is really hard for me to witness. And I keep reminding myself of these signs, and I'm like, no, that's not how this ends. God has showed me otherwise. There are so many signs here. And I told the doctor, I told my wife, I'm like, we're doing another ultrasound. And in the background, to all my friends and stuff, who a lot of people had seen that episode and stuff, I'm telling them, like, I'm trusting the signs, y'all. There were too many hearts. There were way too many hearts and only one name, Julia. And this is going to happen. And we did the second ultrasound, and no kid, or no heartbeat, which means no kid. And it's another punch in the stomach, devastation. And we I felt betrayed. All the signs were there, and I told myself, and I've told y'all also, that I'm not. My rule now is I don't do psychedelics unless they fall in my lap, right? Because it can be very dangerous, y'all, to continue to try to seek answers there. Like, if you derive all of your wisdom from psychedelics, that's dangerous. In a lot of ways. And I have an addictive personality. You don't get a physical addiction to this stuff, y'all, but it is so thrilling and scary too. The scary side of psychedelics, y'all, is the scariest you can possibly freaking imagine. But guess what? Once you're done with that, it's almost like you've been in a fist fight and won it. You feel a little bit proud of, like, wow, I went through that. I survived that. Fist fight's not even the right kind of thing. It's like going to war. I've never been to war, but I would imagine that a veteran, if you filter through the nightmarish stuff, is proud of the fact that they got through such an epically hard thing. But what I'm getting at here, y'all, is I always get off on these tailspins, and I'm sorry. I had some psychedelics that fell in my lap. Okay. And it might be another one of these signs here where at this time, some fell in my lap. And I was like, on my way back home from this appointment where we found out on the second one that we don't have a heartbeat, I was like, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was like, I'm going home and I'm taking those and I'm going to, whatever entity pops up, I'm going to look it in the face and say, what's up, bro? Like, I was being shown this and this happened. Let's talk. Right. And that's essentially what happened. Is I came home. I'm not going to say. Well, I'll tell you, it was mushrooms, but I won't say how much I did. Because honestly, you won't believe me. I took the mushrooms, and the rest, y'all, is going to have to be in the episode. And let me just preface a little bit further by saying, just to let the cat out of the bag, I was told in this experience, this trip, basically that a miracle would happen. But I wasn't told that at the same time. It's like I was told that, but I wasn't told that, but I was. But my ultimate takeaway from the whole experience was that it was. And so that's all I'm going to. And then just to let the cat out of the bag again, the whole reason why I was shown on the, I have a video of me crying and I take down all my videos, is that we did a third ultrasound, a third one, kind of unprecedented. It's like after the second one, that's an indication that, hey, it didn't grow, it didn't have a heartbeat. But our doctor was like, if you want to do another one, I mean, it'll just confirm what we know, but a miracle may happen. And I'm like, yep. In my mind, I'm like, yep, you're damn right, a miracle may happen. I have all the signs and proof that it would. And I couldn't wait. And I know this is a total pride thing. I couldn't wait to look the doctor in the face and say, when they confirmed that we had a heartbeat on the third fetus, third ultrasound, I couldn't wait to be like, I talked to God, basically, and he said this would happen. It makes me want to vomit that I was hoping that, y'all, because that's a total pride-based thing of like, look what I know that you don't, buddy. I have proof of God here. It's like, but I couldn't help but feel it, and I couldn't help but think it, and I can't help but be honest with you about that. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing if I lie about something like that, or if I don't even tell you. But ultimately, the result of that third ultrasound was that nothing had grown. No heartbeat is there. There's no heartbeat. There's no child. The pregnancy is lost. The only thing keeping that fetus inside of my wife's uterus was the fact that we were taking progesterone 3 times a day, or she was taking progesterone. I was administering the shots, but she was taking progesterone 3 times a day that made her body feel like it was a full-on pregnancy. If she had stopped all that progesterone, the miscarriage would have started. And anyway, so the third ultrasound did not produce the results I was hoping. And I had told myself going into that third ultrasound that, hey, even if it doesn't come out, God still has something good in store for me down the road. Like, I can't tell you what he told me because I'm going to save it for the episode, but there was something that he told me that kind of reassured me as much. And I know that's a big cop-out to say, like, hey, terrible things may happen to you, but there's going to be something good waiting around the corner. It's like, okay, I could wait for the rest of my life for that cool thing, amazing thing to happen for me. And then when it finally happens, just out of statistical happenstance, I'm like, oh, that was God. Or was it that in the course of your life, something good is going to happen to you? By the way, when I said course of your life, I looked at my timer here, and it was 22 minutes and 22 seconds on the clock of the recording. Just so happened to look at it during that time. But that is one of these signs just right there that I need to ignore. Or not ignore, I need to now treat as a curiosity. And that's about as much as I should. Anyways, I don't want to say too much because I'm already getting into what's going to be the takeaway, the unpacking episode of my experience. The next video that I do is going to be that experience. And what's crazy is that, I'm doing the astral projection series, which to me it's coming along great. I'm still going to continue with that. But then I have like 2 other trip reports, y'all, that are massively epic that I haven't even released. One happened a year ago on like February of 2023. So, and then there's my last ayahuasca experience, which was just out of this world amazing. And so like I have like, and then there was a little experience after that also, a month after that. So I have like three epically badass trip reports that I'm a year behind on doing the episodes for. This is all just a mix match hodgepodge kind of like piecing, just like they're out of order. I'm so far out of order at this point in my episodes. It's crazy. So I apologize, but it is what it is. I'm still going to release those too, even though I have to be very careful, y'all, about what I believe now because of these signs that either did or did not pan out. And I could be misreading the sign. Well, I'm not going to get into the unpacking. Anyway, that's what I wanted to tell everyone. The next episode is going to be literally me sitting in my house with my camera, just like this. I'll be like holding the camera like this and saying like, hey, I was sitting right here when the blah, blah, blah happened. And then I got up and I'll get up out of my seat and then I walked into the bathroom and right here is where I saw Jesus and stuff. He made an appearance, y'all. Jesus made an appearance and it was freaking epically badass. And when I say badass, y'all, it's like there's parts of this trip that absolutely need to be called into question in terms of, was it real or not? Was this thing that I thought was an angel, was it really an angel? These things that it was telling me, was it something that we should trust? That part definitely we should definitely call into question. But y'all, when Jesus appears in my experience, and I don't remember everything that he said. Okay, I didn't record most of this trip. I started recording at the very end because he was saying some stuff that was so epically beautiful. Just shatter your heart into a million pieces beautiful, that I was like, I've got to record what this guy just said lest I forget. It's like, I wish I could tell you one of them right now, but I don't want to give it away. I can definitely call into question my experiences and stuff that was messages that were delivered and synchronicities and stuff. Now I should call them all into question, but I can't with a big chunk of the experience. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next video you see will be that me explaining to you. There's going to be no whiz bang music or sound effects. It's going to be this right here, me talking to you, just like this. That's it. All right, see you all later. I love you, and even the ones of you that give me a hard time, there's not that many of you, but even the people that swoop in at inopportune times and shit on my worldview, I love you. I love you still. And I wish we could transcend these what I would consider unimportant things that we argue about. If and this is just going back to my beliefs, y'all. If the universe, and regardless of what you call the universe, if the universe is an illusion, which I firmly believe that it is, arguing about little details within that universe is it's a waste of time at best. At worst, it's incredibly divisive and dividing and makes brother hate brother and turn us into enemies and shit. And it's like, who cares if this is all an illusion? Who cares? I still am going to defend my belief here, but we are arguing about the beliefs of we are arguing our beliefs about what the illusion. How do I explain this? We are arguing our beliefs about how illusory the illusion is. I don't care. That's not what if I say stuff that say something that is contradictory to your beliefs about some little thing in the universe, or your universe, or my universe, or whoever's universe, I just understand that I am saying what I believe because that is my window into understanding this illusion. But it's still an illusion. And if you were to prove me wrong about my interpretation of this illusion, it doesn't really prove to me anything amazing. Like, oh, wow. Oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe that something that I can't believe that something that's fake already, something that's an illusion, you've just proved to me that there's a different way to look at the fakeness of it, the illusion of it. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got today, y'all. I love you all. Talk to you later. Bye.